Discover the incredible truth. Small-town bartender's life-changing secret exposed by Navy SEALs. Jake, a humble bartender in a sleepy little town, stood behind the bar, wiping away the day's troubles with a smile. At just 28, he embodied the spirit of his community, caring, compassionate, and incredibly resilient. His bar, The Last Call, was more than just a watering hole. It was a sanctuary where locals gathered to share stories and laughter. As he poured drinks and listened attentively, his heart carried the weight of supporting his ailing mother and younger sister, all while grappling with the ghosts of his family's legacy. Things were tough in the town of Maple Grove. Its main streets whispered of better days as the annual Harvest Festival approached. The festival was a symbol of hope, a chance for everyone to unite and celebrate. But this year, as enthusiasm rose, so did trouble. A wealthy outsider strolled into town, ready to buy out local businesses, threatening to snuff out the very soul that made Maple Grove special. One fateful night, nostalgia filled the air when a group of Navy SEALs burst into the last call. Their laughter wrapped around Jake like a warm blanket, transporting him back to simpler times. Friends he grew up with, now warriors sharing tales of courage, they ignited flickers of hope in the eyes of the patrons. It was infectious. As they raised their glasses, the camaraderie filled the bar, drawing sparks of joy from Jake's heart. As their tales of bravery unfolded, Jake felt the stirring of something deeper within himself, something he longed for but feared to grasp. He wanted to provide for his family, but there was a yearning for a life that felt just out of reach, like the glimmering stars above on a crisp fall night. The laughter and stories warmed the bar, but outside, the clouds turned darker. Rumors of a storm brewing swept through the town, mirroring the tension in Jake's heart. The countdown to the festival began amid whispers of an impending storm. Jake felt a knot tighten in his chest. Desperate to save the spirit of the festival, he rallied the townsfolk. "We can't let this outsider take our home away," he cried out, and his voice roared against the rising winds. Just then, the SEALs' voices broke through the tension, sharing their own stories of dedicating their lives to protect what they loved, breathing inspiration into the hearts of the community. "Before we continue," the bartender interrupted himself, "I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue." As storm clouds rolled in like a fierce battalion, the town came alive. Jake stood in his bar, watching as the townsfolk put aside their fears to work hand in hand. For the first time, he glimpsed a flicker of unity and strength. They fought to protect their traditions and solidify their bonds. But inside Jake, a tempest brewed as buried secrets clawed their way to the surface, threatening everything he'd built. With the festival only days away and his heart pounding like thunder, Jake's journey transformed before him. Would he embrace the challenges ahead, or would the shadows of his family's past hold him back from the destiny he craved? As the first flashes of fireworks ignited the night, vibrant against the dark sky, the once doubtful bartender dared to dream of a brighter future and of embracing the community he had fought so hard to protect. The festival lights twinkled like stars scattered across the twilight sky. Joyful music wafted through the air, infusing energy into the hearts of the townsfolk. Jake's nerves buzzed as he prepared for the biggest night of the year. The days leading up to the festival had been a whirlwind of activity. With the SEAL's encouragement echoing in his mind, he felt a surge of determination igniting within him. Everywhere Jake looked, he saw hope and resilience. Families gathered, helping each other set up stalls and arrange decorations. The laughter of children blended with the chatter of adults, creating an atmosphere thick with anticipation. Jake served drinks, but tonight he was more than just a bartender. He was a leader trying to rally his community around a cause greater than themselves. Yet, in the midst of the celebration, doubt nagged at the edge of his thoughts. The wealthy outsider had promised change, modernization, and prosperity. But at what cost? He remembered the seals' stories of sacrifice and dedication, and the inherent values that had shaped them. What do we want to protect here? He pondered as he poured beer into frosted mugs, their clinking sounds serving as a backdrop to his fight against uncertainty. As the festival began, he took a moment to step outside the bar and breathe in the crisp night air. People danced, and the aroma of caramel popcorn filled his nostrils, grounding him in the present. Yet he noticed a dark figure lurking at the edge of the festivities. It was the outsider, surveying the chaos with an unsettling smirk. Jake's heart raced as he recognized the storm brewing both from within and without. And then, just like that, the figure stepped forward. "Looks like a quaint little gathering you have here," the outsider called out, his voice dripping with condescension. "Leave us alone," Jake found himself snapping before he even processed the words. The atmosphere around them shifted, as the townsfolk paused, eyes darting in confusion. The outsider laughed, a harsh sound that sliced through the joy. "You think you can hold on to your little piece of paradise forever? This town needs a reality check." A murmur of worry surged through the crowd. Jake's palms grew sweaty around the glass he held. He could feel the pressure mounting, not only on himself but on everyone around him. "We're stronger together," he called out, raising his voice to meet the rising tide of negativity. "We won't let you take what's ours." The townspeople erupted in murmurs of agreement, their confidence surging in solidarity. "Right!" shouted Martha from the edge of the crowd, her determination palpable. "Let them know who we are," Jake encouraged, heart racing as he stepped further into the crowd, urging everyone to stand tall against the storm brewing on their doorstep. It was more than a fight for a festival. It was a fight for their way of life. But with every cheer and chant that echoed, a lingering fear gripped Jake. What if they lost? What if the effort was futile? The weight of uncertainty pressed against his heart as he glanced again at the outsider, still watching with a sinister grin. As the flames of the bonfires flickered and the first fireworks exploded into brilliant colors above, Jake felt a flicker of something fierce deep within him. Maybe this fight was more about discovering his own strength, just as the seals had once done. And then it hit him. What if the key to winning wasn't just about protecting Maple Grove but about finding the courage to redefine who he was as well? Jake turned back, eyes and heart determined. He gathered the townsfolk around him, their faces illuminated by the brilliant display above. "Tonight, we celebrate not only our town but ourselves. It's time for us to unite and show the world our true spirit." As the crowd cheered, Jake realized how intertwined their destinies were. But with challenges ahead, were they ready to truly fight for what they all held dear? The night was far from over, and the battle had only just begun. The storm was coming, and Jake could feel it in the air. Could he inspire his town to fight back before it was too late? The fireworks burst into the night sky, showering the crowd with sparks of light. Each explosion echoed Jake's heartbeat, a rhythmic reminder that the moment was now. "We can do this!" he shouted, his voice ringing out above the celebration. The townsfolk's faces glimmered with the glow of camaraderie and defiance. As the crowd roared in agreement, Jake locked eyes with Martha. She was a symbol of resoluteness, her hands clenched into determined fists. "For Maple Grove!" she hollered, rallying those closest to her. The cheers spread like wildfire, each person fueling the next. But just as Jake felt the swell of hope, uncertainty invaded his thoughts once more. Deep down, he wondered if they were merely echoing their courage and if real change was possible. The outsider's mocking presence loomed at the back of his mind. He couldn't shake the feeling that the battle was just beginning, and uncertainty gnawed at him. "Let us gather closer," Jake yelled, motioning for everyone to form a tighter circle. Graham, the town's eldest resident, stood nearby, his gray hair illuminated by the vibrant sky. He nodded, sharing a knowing look with Jake. Graham understood what was at stake. He had lived through hardships that were etched into the town's history. "Maybe we should hear him out," a voice piped up from the back. A younger guy in a baseball cap stepped forward. "Change can be good, right? We could use some upgrades." Murmurs of agreement mingled with murmurs of dissent. Jake felt the air shift as a rift formed. A harsh reality settled over him like a heavy fog. They were all scared of losing what little they had, but divided by dreams of what could be. But at what price? He asked, searching for an anchor in the storm. We can improve without losing ourselves, Martha interjected. We can adapt while keeping our roots. We're not against change, just against losing what matters. Jake squeezed his eyes shut for a moment, letting her words settle within him. In those seconds he realized this wouldn't just be some battle against an outsider. It was a question of identity. What kind of future did they want? Let us create a plan, he shouted, excitement mingling with fear. Let us show him that we can integrate change while honoring our history. We can redefine what Maple Grove stands for. The crowd erupted once more, ready to rally. Jake glanced back at the outsider, who stood now with narrowed eyes, his smirk replaced with a frown. He could see confusion mixing with disdain. Just then, a hush fell over the crowd. A figure emerged from behind the outsider, Officer Daniels. Known for upholding the law and safeguarding Maple Grove, he strode confidently. The townsfolk murmured in surprise. This town stands firm when it's united, he began, voice steady as he addressed the gathering. We need to keep our heads clear and our hearts strong. We can't allow outsiders to dictate our path. Jake felt a wave of relief wash over him. Maybe they weren't as alone as he had feared. Then let us gather everyone's thoughts, he suggested, his voice steady. Let us brainstorm what we love about this town, and how we can use those strengths to build a better future. As the townsfolk began bouncing ideas off one another, hope glimmered in their eyes. The energy in the crowd shifted from uncertainty to potential, igniting Jake's spirit. They were creating something together, shaping a response to keep their identity alive. But while excitement surged, the outsider's presence still loomed. Jake could sense that he would not back down easily. They were standing at the edge of a new beginning, yet a darker storm approached. What would the outsider do next? Would their newfound unity be enough to hold off what was coming? Jake's heart raced as he considered this larger fight ahead. Change was inevitable, but would they bend or break under pressure? The night's festivities still raged around them, but the true battle was only just unfolding. The fate of Maple Grove was hanging in the balance, and Jake could feel the weight of the world on his shoulders. Would they be able to unite against a challenge that threatened everything they cherished? The chatter of excitement rippled through the crowd as the townsfolk exchanged ideas, their energy buzzing like the fireworks above. Jake stood at the heart of it all, feeling them shift and meld, uniting in a common purpose. It felt powerful. Let us start a community garden, a woman shouted, her voice slicing through the noise. We can preserve our history and teach the kids about sustainability. Yes, another voice chimed in. And what about a local festival? We could showcase our arts and crafts to attract visitors without changing who we are. Jake's heart swelled. Here were sparks of creativity igniting their souls. Each suggestion blended into a mosaic of possibility, and for the moment, he believed they could rise above the tide of change that threatened to wash away their roots. But then, a shadow crossed Jake's heart. The outsider remained perched at the edge of the gathering, his expression unreadable. What was he planning? Just as Jake opened his mouth to speak, Martha stepped closer to him, her brow furrowed with concern. Jake, the outsider, he is still here. What could he do if he doesn't like our plans? Jake met her gaze, reading the doubt behind her resolute exterior. We need to stay strong. We can't let fear dictate our actions, he replied, though unease curled in his chest. But we have to be smart. Suddenly, Officer Daniels stepped forward again. I see potential in this community, he announced, his voice commanding and warm. But we need to prepare. We may not know what that outsider is capable of, but we should be vigilant. The crowd quieted, absorbing his words like a sponge. Jake could hear their breaths, nervous and expectant. What could this outsider unleash? Let us form a committee, Jake proposed, his mind racing. To plan the projects and monitor any changes. We need a unified front. It's about preserving our community and our identity. Yes. The voice of an older man rang out, fueling the fire. Count me in. This is my home too. One by one, people stepped up, eager to find ways to contribute. The warmth of courage spread through Jake, igniting a flicker of hope that burned deeper than before. They could be more than a town. They could be a fortress. As they began to form smaller groups and draw up ideas, Jake's gaze shifted to the outsider. Was he taking notes? Laughing internally? Uncertainty crept back into his heart. Suddenly, a loud crash disrupted their planning. The outsider slammed a handmade sign onto the ground, drawing every eye. "This town is stuck in the past," he yelled, his voice laced with venom. "You think you can keep things the same while the world moves on? You're dreaming." The crowd erupted, anxiety sparking in their midst. Jake felt a pang in his chest. Why couldn't this man see? They weren't against progress. They just wanted to protect what made them unique. But then, amidst the chaos, Officer Daniels stepped forward, voice steady. "Enough. We're choosing to unite, not fight. There's strength in our community, and you won't break that." Jake felt the weight of hope lift slightly. The outsider's storm was indeed fierce, but they wouldn't allow it to drown them. As the tension simmered, he glanced around at the faces of his neighbors. They were still here, hearts beating with determination, refusing to back down. But deep down, Jake felt the pressure rising again. What strategies would they need to protect their town? Would the solidarity they found today be enough to hold strong against the outsider's relentless push? With those thoughts echoing in his mind, he turned back to the crowd, ready to face whatever challenge lay ahead. Yet the real battle felt far from over, and the horizon darkened with uncertainty. Would their dreams be crushed or rise like the sparks in the sky? The atmosphere grew thick with tension as the outsider's words lingered in the air like smoke. The crowd buzzed with whispers, casting nervous glances at each other. Jake could feel the uncertainty ripple through them, threatening to unravel the unity they had built just moments earlier. Martha squeezed Jake's arm, her eyes wide with fear. "Do you think he'll try to sabotage our plans? We can't let that happen." There was a quiver in her voice that tugged at Jake's heart. He took a deep breath, squaring his shoulders. "We're not going to back down. We'll face whatever comes our way together." His conviction echoed in the silence, drawing a few nods from the crowd, though Jake could still see doubt flickering in some eyes. "Let us not just talk about what we can do," Officer Daniels urged, stepping forward again, his demeanor calm yet assertive. "We need to act. We need to show our unity in the face of adversity." Jake's heart raced as a plan began to form. "What if we organized a town hall meeting?" he suggested, his voice rising above the murmurs. "Invite everyone, including the outsider. Let him voice his concerns, and then we show him how much we value our community." The group seemed to absorb the idea, and gradually, heads nodded in agreement. "Yes," someone shouted. "Show him we care about our history and future." Martha's face brightened, hope returning to her features. "That could work. If we stand together, maybe he'll see that we're not just clinging to the past. We want to evolve without losing who we are." Suddenly, the outsider broke into a laughter that sent chills down Jake's spine. "You really believe that will change anything? You think he'll listen?" "I doubt it. This town is a relic, but I know how to bring it to life." Jake felt fire flare within him. Life doesn't mean losing what makes us real. If anything, it means adapting while still holding our roots close. We're not afraid of change, but we refuse to be bulldozed. Now voices rose higher, clashing with the outsider's disdain. The fire-filled unity sparked a new resolve among the townsfolk. They began to shout their plans above the outsider's laughter, a chorus of dreams breaking free. "We can do this together," shouted a man from the back. "We'll create that garden. We'll have our festival." With renewed intensity, Jake took charge, encouraging his neighbors to brainstorm, reclaiming their courage. The tension from moments ago was still there, but it was now charged with the pounding rhythm of determination. They started to form small working groups, each echoing shared ideas and visions. Signs of hope began to illuminate their faces. Yet, amidst this flourishment, Jake kept glancing over his shoulder at the outsider. He was still there, observing with an unsettling grin. The more they rallied, the more Jake could feel the outsider's presence looming like a dark cloud. What is he plotting? Jake thought, excitement mingling with fear as the outsider continued to loom. As night fell, the laughter and chatter under the fireworks transformed the town square into a lively tapestry of ideas and energy. Jake took a moment to breathe it all in, a shared sense of ambition glowing like the stars above them. But as laughter echoed, a sudden noise cut through the sound of shattered glass. A nearby window had broken. Everyone froze, casting worried eyes toward the sound. Jake's heart sank. The stakes had just been raised. Would they be able to uphold their dreams while facing not just the outsider's challenge, but whatever else might come from the shadows? Jake's pulse quickened at the thought of danger. There was only one thing he knew for sure: they had to be ready for whatever was next in store. The crowd gasped collectively, the sound like a whip crack in the stillness. Jake's heart was racing now, pounding against his ribs like a caged animal. He could feel the shift in the air, tension morphing into something heavier, darker. What was that? Martha whispered, fear casting a shadow over her previously brightened face. I don't know, Jake replied, eyes darting toward the source of the noise. But we need to stay united. The outsider remained unmoved, watching with that same unsettling grin, as if he thrived on the chaos spreading among them. With every nervous whisper and frightened glance, Jake saw the unity they had built begin to crack. The flickering flames of hope that had lit their dreams were now under threat from an unseen wind. Let us get that window fixed, Officer Daniels said, his voice cutting through the apprehension. It's a symbol of our strength. We should repair what's broken together. Several people nodded, bolstered by his words, but Jake could still sense the fear lingering in the air. With determination feeding his resolve, Jake turned to them. We have to take the next step. We can't allow this outsider to instill fear in us. We've planned our meeting. Let us not let doubt dictate our fate. Martha squeezed his hand tighter, her grip a balance between hope and anxiety. You're right. But what if this was just the beginning? What if he's not going to let us do this peacefully? As if summoned by her words, the outside door of the community center creaked open. Everyone turned to the shadow lingering at the entrance in early night darkening the doorway. It was Amelia, an older woman known for her wisdom and historical knowledge of the town, but tonight her face wore an expression of serious concern. What is happening here? I heard the glass break, she said, urgency coloring her words. Jake quickly shared what had transpired, each moving piece sparking within him a sense of urgency. We need to stand strong. We're on the edge of something big, and we can't lose it now. Amelia nodded slowly, her eyes narrowing thoughtfully. Sometimes people will attempt to instill fear to disrupt the good among us. But we need to dig deeper. There may be truths that will rise out of this mess, truths that could change everything. Jake felt a chill run down his spine. He could almost hear the weight of her words sinking into the crowd as fear turned into scrutiny. What did she mean by truths? Who is that man? Amelia said abruptly, pointing toward the outsider, who remained fixated on their gathering. What do we actually know about him? The group turned to look. Jake's heart sank again. The outsider's smirk had faded slightly, revealing a subtle glance of discomfort as the crowd's attention now shifted to him instead of each other. What are you hiding? Jake's voice rang out, carrying a mix of disbelief and challenge. The outsider's eyes met his, and for a fraction of a second, Jake saw something, the first glimpse of vulnerability behind the bravado. It was fleeting, and then the mask returned. Amelia stepped forward, her voice a mix of authority and encouragement. We must uncover who he is and what he wants. Only then can we protect our community. As murmurings filled the air, Jake's mind spun with possibilities. Would confronting the outsider uncover a hidden agenda, or would it only fuel the fire? He could feel the weight of every pair of eyes on him, waiting for him to lead. Suddenly, the outsider laughed, the sound low and menacing. You really think that you can stand against me? This isn't just about a glass and a broken window. Jake felt his chest tighten. What was the outsider plotting? The sense of foreboding loomed closer, but there was no choice now. They had to forge ahead and face the storm head-on. "Tomorrow," Jake declared, rallying the town once more, "we will meet. We will standing firm, not just for our dreams, but for the very foundation of who we are." As a cheer rose, filled with tentative but powerful hope, Jake could only wonder what truths would surface and what they would reveal about the outsider, about themselves, and the town they cherished deeply. Would the answers empower them or shatter their bonds far beyond repair? The sun hadn't fully emerged yet, but the air in the community center was already buzzing with anticipation. Jake stood at the front, nerves coiling in his stomach while he looked over the crowd that had gathered for the meeting. Faces he knew well, friends, neighbors, and even a couple of skeptical newcomers filled the room. Each one brought a story, a connection, a thread in the fabric of their small community. "Thank you all for being here," he started, voice steady but with a hint of tremor. "Today, we stand together. Not just for ourselves, but for what we mean to each other and to this town." Martha was beside him, her expression a blend of support and concern. She nodded encouragingly, trying to mask her worry. Jake could feel her heartbeat echoing in his hand as she gripped him tighter. The whispers shifted from cautious optimism to questions about the outsider. Was he dangerous? What exactly did he want? Amelia raised her hand to calm the growing murmur. "Let us be clear," she said, her voice cutting through the rest like a knife. "Fear is the enemy today, not the man outside. What we have to do is face it together." A murmur of agreement spread through the crowd, voices building on Amelia's words. They could do this. They had to do this. But just as the energy began to swell, the door creaked open. A hush fell, and the outsider stepped inside. The familiar unsettling grin was still plastered on his face, but there was something different in his demeanor today. More calculated, more confident. "Jake," he called out, his voice smooth as syrup. "I see you've gathered your little army. How do you know my name?" Jake countered, trying to steady his voice against the fear welling inside him. "I know quite a bit about all of you." "It's amusing, really," the outsider continued, raising his arms as if inviting an embrace from the entire room. "But let us not play games, let us talk business." The crowd shifted uneasily, uncertainty clouding their earlier enthusiasm. Jake felt panic prick at his insides as whisperings grew chaotic. In that moment, Martha squeezed his hand tighter. Jake could feel the tension mounting. "What do you want?" Jake demanded, mustering all the bravery he could find. "Why are you here?" The outsider chuckled, but the laughter came out cold, devoid of warmth. "Let us just say I am here to expose truths that you're not quite familiar with. Secrets have a way of surfacing, often from shadows." What did he mean by secrets? Was he truly a threat to everything they had built? Amelia took a step forward, her eyes laser-focused on the man. "If you have information, share it. We're not afraid to face the truth." "Did I say it was something to be afraid of?" The outsider shrugged casually. "Fear is simply a tool. I'm here to enlighten you. To show you what your little community really is." The crowd remained silent, tension palpable in the air. Jake exchanged glances with Martha and Amelia. What lay on the other side of this confrontation? "We want to protect our community," Jake said, voice unwavering. "Whatever it is, we are in this together, and we will not be afraid of your threats." "Oh, Jake," the outsider said, amusement dancing in his eyes. "You have no idea what's coming. But I do. And tomorrow, when the sun rises again, you'll wish you had listened when I offered you a chance to know the truth." A collective gasp broke from the crowd, each face reflecting unease and fear. Was this threat merely words, or something much deeper? As the outsider stepped backward into the light, the sense that the battle was far from over hung like a heavy fog. Jake's breath caught in his throat as questions swirled like a storm inside him. Were they strong enough to face the coming storm, or would the truths the outsider promised shatter their hopes entirely? Tomorrow, he thought, as the door swung shut behind the stranger, sealing in a silence that felt ominous. What would unfold by then? The morning sun rose slowly, bathing the town in a golden hue that felt both comforting and eerie. As Jake lay awake in bed, he couldn't shake the sense of impending doom that clung to him. The stranger's words echoed in his mind, twisting and turning like a warning bell. Tomorrow, you'll wish you had listened. He turned to Martha, who was still sleeping peacefully beside him. Her face was serene, yet Jake felt painfully aware of the burden he carried. Her safety depended on his ability to protect the community. Today wasn't just about a stranger's threats. It was about everything they had, everything they were building together. After what seemed like hours of tossing and turning, Jake finally rose and stepped outside. The air was cool against his skin, the world still waking up. The streets were quiet, but the weight of his thoughts was anything but. He made his way to the community center, hoping the familiar surroundings would bring him clarity. Upon arriving, he found Amelia already there, pacing back and forth, her expression wrought with anxiety. "Did you sleep at all?" she asked, her voice edged with concern. "Not really," Jake admitted, rubbing the back of his neck. "I keep thinking about what he said. What could he possibly expose?" Amelia stopped pacing and faced him, determination shining in her eyes. "We need to gather everyone. If we're going to confront whatever the outsider brings today, we have to be united. Secrets thrive in isolation, Jake." Just then, Martha stepped through the door, her expression shifting from sleepy-eyed to alert upon seeing their somber countenances. "What's going on?" she asked, concern deepening the furrow on her brow. Jake exchanged glances with Amelia before answering. "Things are about to get complicated. We need to prepare everyone for whatever is coming." Hours passed as neighbors trickled in. Old and young, they arrived with the remnants of breakfast on their lips, unaware of the storm looming just outside. The atmosphere shifted once more, the air thick with a blend of excitement and apprehension. Jake took a deep breath, gathering everyone's attention. "Listen up, everyone," he began, his voice trembling but rising to a fortifying crescendo. "We have something to face today, and we have to be strong together. The outsider has threatened us, hinted at secrets that could tear us apart. But we know who we are, and we know what we stand for." The crowd murmured, with expressions ranging from worry to defiance, but Jake saw glimmers of something else: hope. Yes, they were afraid, but they were also resilient. Amelia stepped forward, nodding at Jake's call to action. "We need to make it clear that we won't back down. We're a community, a family." Just as those words hung in the air like a damning challenge, the doors swung open once again. The outsider reappeared, his malicious smile more pronounced under the bright lights inside. "Ah, the brave little band," he said, his tone dripping with mockery. "How lovely to see you all so united. I hope you're ready. Believe me, the truth can sting." A wave of nerves crashed over the crowd, but this time they stood together. It was a palpable force of solidarity. Jake felt a flicker of bravery ignite within him. He stepped forward, eyeing the outsider with determination. "Whatever you think you know, we won't be scared into submission. Speak your truth, and we'll face it." The outsider's eyes glinted as he savored Jake's response. "Oh, I plan to. But first, let us have a little fun with anticipation. I'll be back, and I promise, you won't be ready for what's next." With those ominous words, the outsider turned on his heel and walked out, leaving the door ajar as if he were inviting chaos into their lives. The silence that followed was heavy, each heartbeat like a countdown. What secrets awaited them? Did they truly know each other as they thought? Jake felt the stir of doubt creep back. Today was about to change everything. There was no turning back now. What will we discover about ourselves when the truth finally surfaces? He wondered, anxiety clawing at his chest. The door stood open, the shadows whispering promises of revelations yet to come. The room buzzed with anxiety, the kind that clung to the air, thick and heavy. Jake shifted his weight, feeling the heat of the crowd around him, their collective breath caught in a shared moment of uncertainty. He could see the fear etched on faces he had known for years, people who had laughed together, cried together, shared meals, and swayed to music at summer fairs. Now, they stood together on the brink, teetering between trust and dread. "What do we do now?" a voice called from the back, breaking the tension like a crack of thunder. Amelia met Jake's gaze, her jaw clenched tight. She stepped forward, her voice steady despite the tremor beneath. We prepare ourselves. Whatever this outsider has in store, we need to make sure it doesn't divide us. Jake felt a warmth rise in his chest at her words. That's right. Let us create a plan. He turned toward the closest tables, stacking chairs to make room. We work better together. Let us split into groups. Some can gather information, others can reach out to those who couldn't make it. We need to reinforce our bonds. He glanced around, seeking to meet the eyes of those he cared about the most. Old Mr. Thompson, usually full of stories and laughter, stood with his hands clasped, worry etched across his features. Emily from the bakery brushed her hair back with a shaky hand, a nervous energy tightening her shoulders. A sudden clatter made Jake jump as a chair tipped over, and all eyes turned to see Raphael, the town's mechanic, struggling to right it. When he finally sat back down, a smile broke his anxious expression. Well, if it's a fight we're getting into, I'd rather have my friends beside me than face it alone. Laughter rippled through the crowd, lightening the mood just enough to let the weight of reality sink in. Together, they could forge ahead, they could face anything. As they formed small groups, he noticed Martha moving quietly between them. She was a steady anchor, her presence a semblance of comfort in the rising storm. Jake, she called softly, weaving through the clamor. He caught her gaze and felt a jolt of connection. I believe in you. We all need that strength right now. Her voice, calm and soothing, did wonders to ease his racing heart. We can do this, he assured her, holding her hand tightly for a moment. Then, just as they started breaking off into teams, the door swung open again. The outsider appeared, his smirk returning to claim the room. This time, he held a small device in his hand, shiny and sleek, reflecting the light like a beacon. Ready for a show? He asked, feigning innocence. I hope you've enjoyed your bonding time. The truth, after all, can be quite a spectacle. A shiver of fear ran through Jake, as the outsider's presence felt like an encroaching storm. With the community gathered, they stood against this unwelcome force, and he could feel their collective heartbeat, wild and yet resolute. What do you want from us? Jake challenged, stepping forward again, refusing to back down. If you think you can drive us apart, you're wrong. The outsider chuckled. Oh, I love your spirit. But let us just say, things may not be what they seem. There are untold stories here, and I have the perfect audience. Jake's stomach twisted as the outsider pressed a button on the device, and a screen flickered to life behind him, casting strange shadows on the walls. Let us see what comes next, he said, his voice dripping with anticipation. What secrets would be exposed? What stories buried deep within their community would come to light? Jake felt his heart race as realization dawned. They were not just facing a stranger. They were up against the very essence of their own histories, unearthing what they had desperately tried to forget. Are we ready for this? He thought, fighting the urge to retreat as the screen illuminated. The uncertainty loomed, thick like fog, closing in around them. What truths awaited them that day? And with one icy breath, the outsider's laughter danced in the air, echoing with the promise of chaos yet to come. Would the community stand strong, or would they crumble under the weight of their own secrets? The screen flickered to life, illuminating the anxious faces of the townsfolk. Flashes of old photographs emerged, images of Maple Grove through the years, filled with smiles and laughter. Children playing, families celebrating, and community gatherings. The nostalgia tugged at Jake's heart, and for a moment, it seemed as if the soul of the town was being unveiled, a testament to their shared history. But then, the outsider changed the tone. Pictures morphed into unsettling images, betrayals, secrets, debts. The chilling pulse of whispered stories began to circulate, surfacing fears long buried. With each moment, Jake's pulse quickened. He saw glimmers of truth hidden amongst the shadows, memories that could split the town like a crack in glass. What is this? A voice rang out, shaky and raw. Why are you trying to tear us apart? It was Martha, stepping forward, her face a mixture of anger and fear. The ghostly glow of the screen danced across her features. Oh, I'm not trying to create division, the outsider replied, voice dripping with false sincerity. I'm simply showing you the reality of your beloved town. There's south more to Maple Grove than what you've been told. Jake's heart raced. He had seen the way whispers could spiral into chaos. You're right about one thing, he said firmly, locking eyes with the outsider. We can't ignore the past. But what you don't see is that we are here for each other together, we face it. The outsider paused, visibly taken aback. The crowd held its breath, unsure of how the confrontation would unfold. Jake stood tall, feeling the warmth of his community pulling around him. We're stronger than the sum of our secrets. We will own our stories. Ah, the outsider laughed, and it sounded desperate. But what if those secrets shatter your beautiful facade? What if the truth is too deep for you to handle? Martha stepped up beside Jake, face set in fierce determination. You can't threaten us into hiding. We take pride in our history, both good and bad. It's what makes us a family, and families stand together. Her words sparked a fire amongst the crowd. Others began to speak up, voices rising, hearts uniting. Old Mr. Thompson stepped forward, courage shining in his eyes. I've seen the ghosts of my past, and you know what? I still choose to live here, surrounded by those I love. As laughter broke from the crowd, the outsider's confident smirk started to fade. Each voice carried another layer of resilience. They began sharing their own stories, the mistakes, the struggles, the lessons learned, and the love that had endured through it all. Together, we are what keeps Maple Grove alive, Jake continued, feeling the weight of their collective presence enfold him in warmth. We will choose who we are, not you. Suddenly, the outsider's laughter turned bitter. You think you can control this narrative? Good luck when the tides of change come crashing in. But Jake felt the tide shifting. Maybe change is necessary, but it doesn't mean we lose who we are. We adapt, we learn, and we grow with our roots intact. Just then, a loud cheer broke out among the crowd. The townsfolk were energized, optimism blooming where despair had lingered. They were beginning to shape their own destiny, and with it, a sense of clarity washed over Jake. Let us create our future together, he urged, stepping closer. Let us embrace who we are while welcoming elements that add depth to our history. With each shout of agreement, Jake could see the outsider's confidence wane, now overshadowed by the vibrant glow of hope radiating from the crowd. The air thickened with energy, turning from fearful to defiant, electrified by the strength of familiar faces uniting for a common cause. The outsider, sensing the power amassing near him, stumbled back. You think this is resolved? You have no idea the revelations I possess about your town, your families. Suddenly, in an act of desperation, he pressed the button on his device again, and the images on the screen morphed into a blinding, chaotic flurry. No! Jake cried out, instinctively shielding his friends. But as the chaos erupted, something transformed in the air. The dizzying confrontation revealed the truth, a shared acknowledgement of both the darkness and light inherent in each life that intersected within Maple Grove, the imperfections woven into the love they nurtured. The crowd surged forward, eyes ablaze with unyielding spirit. We won't let you tear us apart, they shouted, voices rising in defiance, creating a deafening echo of resolve that drowned out the outsider's mocking grins. The outsider faltered under the torrent of unity. With the tides of change surging beneath the strength of their bonds, it was clear the dark flames of fear wouldn't hold them captive any longer. You're battling a losing fight, he retorted one last time, stepping closer to the door, eyeing their fierce energy, and realizing he might just be outnumbered. Jake felt the cool rush of victory washing over him. You might hold pieces of our past, he said, heart brimming with conviction, but it's our future that will always define us. With a final, frantic glance, the outsider turned and fled, the doors swinging shut behind him. Silence enveloped the room for a moment before cheers erupted, lifting every spirit with the promise of new beginnings. As relief filled the air with each victorious cry, Jake's heart swelled with pride. The battle was far from over, but together, they had forged an immense bond that would ensure Maple Grove stood resilient against any storm. They were a family, and they would navigate the uncertain waters together. Let us take what we've learned today, Jake called out, rallying those around him. Let us build our future on the lessons of our past. together. And as the cheers mingled with the echo of the outsider's departure, they stepped into a new day, a shared journey ignited by courage, love, and the promise of hope. Now, this is the moment that matters most. Think of your friends who need to hear this story, who need a boost of encouragement just like Jake and his community. You need to subscribe now to catch all the exclusive content we're bringing to you. Don't miss out, hit that like button right now to help the algorithm show your support. Share your own thoughts and feelings about this powerful ending in the comments below. And don't wait not even one more second to share this story with at least 5 friends. They need to see this transformation. Together, let's keep the spirit of unity alive.